Oh, yeah. Good morning, everyone. It's Friday, October 7th, and today is National Trigeminal Neuralgia Awareness Day, National Chocolate Covered Pretzel Day, National Inner Beauty Day, National LED Light Day, and National Frappy Day. Thank you for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. It's also high noon on the East Coast. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe, especially on YouTube, to us, as well as on all other social media platforms. We're live every Monday through Friday on YouTube and audio only on Clubhouse. And if you are joining us via Clubhouse, you can also participate in the show by raising your hand if you have a brief comment on the story most recently presented. But without further ado, let's pay a quick bill because we got a lot of news to unpack today.
At True Classic OG, we live by one motto: stay true. We stay true to our legacy cut of True OG that's always fresh, piney, gassy, and delicious. We represent the spirit, hustle, and diversity of our great city of angels. And we stay true to the spirit of this plant, doing everything in-house to ensure that you get the highest quality and consistency with every batch. And that's what's made us LA's favorite OG. True Classic OG. Stay true, Los Angeles.
Oh, yeah. Rico.
Oh, yeah. So, everybody, yesterday marked a historically seismic shift in U.S. cannabis industry. We heard the news first right after yesterday's show from High at Nine's very own Washington insider and founder of Panoptic Strategies, Gretchen Gailey. So, in a slight break from the first half of today's programming, we're going to give the floor to her so we can discuss exactly what was said and done and debate what the industry should be on the lookout for in this new era of dank Brandon. Happy Friday, Gretchen. What you got for us today?
Good afternoon, Rico. My headline is coming from Marijuana Moment. Biden announces mass marijuana pardons and calls for cannabis scheduling review. President Joe Biden announced on Thursday that he is taking dramatic steps to change federal marijuana laws and provide relief to drug war victims, an unexpected development that comes roughly a month before the November election. The president is initiating an administrative review of federal marijuana scheduling, and he also said that he will be granting mass pardons for people who have committed federal cannabis possession offenses while calling on governors to do the same for state-level convictions. This is a massive development from the president, who has stayed relatively quiet on cannabis reform since taking office after campaigning on marijuana decriminalization, rescheduling, and expungements for low-level cannabis convictions. He said in a statement, "As I often said during my campaign for president, no one should be in jail just for using or possessing marijuana. Sending people to prison for possessing marijuana has upended too many lives and incarcerated people for conduct that many states no longer prohibit." The White House estimates that about 6,500 people with federal cannabis convictions will be eligible for relief under the new order, and thousands of others whose local offenses took place in Washington, D.C. could also benefit. The scheduling review, which would be conducted by the Justice Department and U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, could fundamentally reshape federal marijuana policy. Biden has faced calls from advocates to use his executive authority to unilaterally initiate that process. It's not clear how long the review might take, but Biden stressed that he wants the agencies to process it expeditiously. It's possible that the review could ultimately result in a recommendation to move marijuana from the strictest classification of Schedule 1 under the Controlled Substances Act to a lower schedule or no schedule at all. Biden has said he supports rescheduling to Schedule 2, but advocates have pushed for complete descheduling, which would effectively end prohibition. On a background call with reporters ahead of the announcement, a senior administration official stressed that the president is simply asking for a review and isn't specifically pushing for descheduling or reclassification to any particular schedule. The official also reiterated that while Biden is asking for an expeditious review process, it's still going to take some time because it must be based on a careful consideration of all of the available evidence, including scientific and medical information that's available. This is meant to proceed swiftly. But this has to be serious and a considerate review of the available evidence. So he's not setting an artificial timeline, but he is saying this needs to be expeditious. Of more immediate consequence, the president also said that he will be granting mass pardons to everyone with a federal conviction for cannabis possession. And he's imploring governors across the U.S. to follow suit at the state level. Just as no one should be in federal prison solely for possessing marijuana, no one should be in a local jail or state prison for that reason either, said Biden. Finally, even as federal and state regulation of marijuana changes, important limitations on trafficking, marketing, and underage sales should stay in place. Too many lives have been upended because of our failed approach to marijuana. It's time we right these wrongs. In a presidential proclamation that was issued on Thursday, Biden said he's granting a full, complete, and unconditional pardon to all United States citizens and lawful permanent residents who committed the offense of simple possession of marijuana in violation of the Controlled Substance Act, which will restore to them full political, civil, and other rights. He also said in a statement that he's directed the Attorney General to develop an administrative process for the issuance of certificates of pardon to eligible individuals. The call for action by governors to provide relief isn't binding, but that component of the announcement could ultimately impact far more Americans if the top state officials abide, as the vast majority of people with marijuana convictions have been prosecuted at the state rather than the federal level. During this time in the Senate, Biden served as the chair of the influential Judiciary Committee that helped shape U.S. drug policy during an era of heightened scaremongering and criminalization. At that time, he was among the most prominent Democratic drug warriors in Congress for decades. The White House previously signaled that Biden would not be making any marijuana policy reform moves ahead of the election, but now he's dropped what essentially amounts to a drug policy October surprise just before the midterms. And while I do agree with Marijuana Moment that, of course, this is a wonderful October surprise for the industry, I do have to say it doesn't matter what side of the aisle you come from. I don't even think Jason Beck could get mad at this. This is a good move for the administration, and this is a good move for the industry. This is Gretchen for High at 9 News.
Thank you so much for covering the story and hitting us with the news early yesterday, Gretchen. This is a huge win, period. And even if it's just the rhetoric as of right now, I'm very, very, very glad that he came out with it. I just want to start with that. But this could have been done on day one. It was one of his campaign promises. And people have died since then. It's been 2 years. People have been locked up since then. And I just hate that this issue in particular is playing with the lives of so many damn people. And then on top of that, before Biden was in office, we had about 4% Black ownership in the cannabis industry. It's less than 2% now. And we're in an era of hyperinflation as well. So the communities of color that had a chance pre-Biden and actually supported him going into the last election, to say they're disappointed, I think is an understatement. But yes, this is a huge win and a positive movement rhetorically. But we just need to keep our eyes on this one, and we need to hold his feet to the fire and make sure we go forward with descheduling, not rescheduling, descheduling, or full legalization at this point, because there's a lot of stuff to unpack here, as Jason said. So what do you guys think, man?
Well, Rico, I mean, did you see his point number 3?
Yes.
And his 3 points?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
because that's the biggest troubling point of them all. Because from what I'm told, the Biden administration wants cannabis to go to Schedule 3, which
Right.
would immediately throw the entire cannabis industry and everything everyone's built immediately into the hands of Big Pharma.
So with it immediately into the hands of Big Pharma, I don't think that the way that the level of investment that exists right now, the amount of lobby money that I think would be put into it, I don't think that that's going to be really an option at this point. And if it is, it'll be one of those things where Big Pharma just has to buy everybody, because it's not like they could just like turn a fucking light switch on and provide this. You know what I mean? So like if that
They're
did
gonna
happen,
buy everyone for pennies on the dollar.
Yeah.
I mean, at this point, everyone's buying for pennies on the dollar. But yeah, right. That's what I'm saying. Like we're in this weird transition where it's like, fuck, some people would be like, God, if Pfizer offered me a fucking 500 racks, I'd be the fuck out of here.
Well, 6.7 billion went to Arena Pharmaceuticals in San Diego, from Pfizer.
I'm not by any means a fan of any, for this matter, presidents. I'm not a fan of presidents just in
Yeah.
general. I think they're all kind of
Burn it
shitheads.
down, Nicole. Burn it down.
But in the fact that the first few years with Biden, like there was so much real shit going on. I'm not trying to say that cannabis isn't real shit, but like Ukraine, fucking COVID, like we were having like so many like genuine, like I understand that cannabis was one of the things that he talked about, but like weed people, we got to be assuming that we're probably going to fall after the fucking Ukraine as like a level of priority to deal with.
But it's a win. But
it's a win, in my opinion. That's
Well,
what
hold
I'm saying.
on,
Like,
hold on.
It took a little while. You're right.
Hold
It took a
on,
while,
hold on.
but it should have been done day one. But I'm saying, like, on day one, like, we were still pandemic. We were in the middle of fucking wars and shit that were happening. So, like, I just feel like.
But technically, we're not in the Ukraine war, right?
You're right.
Like,
you're right.
We're not.
But
Exactly.
in some bullshit.
We're just
in the
funding
middle
the
of
whole thing.
Yeah,
exactly.
We're just
totally
funding the whole thing.
ridiculous.
I think.
But go ahead, Stone. Go ahead, please.
I was just gonna say, it's just it. He could have done something day one, but here we are creeping up on the next big election, and here's your little carrot, kids.
So everyone's in agreement that this is basically pandering to voters.
Yeah,
it is. I think it is.
Okay,
all
right,
it's a good
all right.
thing.
Fair enough.
And he needed to win after 40%. After that FBI report showed 45% of cannabis arrests were tied to cannabis in some way.
Well, hold on, because I'm going to go into that in a second. But I think it's always important in all of the celebration around this throughout our industry. I think it's always important to note what the opposition is saying in lieu of. Okay, and so I went on to Kevin Sabet's Twitter to see what Kevin Sabet is saying, and Kevin Sabet says, "No one is in federal prison for simple marijuana possession." One more time. No one is in federal prison for simple marijuana possession. And for those people in the back, no one is in federal prison for simple marijuana possession. He also says scheduling reviews of marijuana happen about every 5 to 10 years anyhow. The last one was in 2015 under the Obama administration, and it was a sore disappointment for pot advocates. So, I mean, are we setting ourselves up for more of the same?
The federal level, I totally understand that,
because I think it's based on a misconception. Federal prison, you only get after you get sentenced to federal prison, but people do get arrested, detained, cited, taken to local jail, released before they see the federal magistrate for possession of marijuana. If you doubt me, go to Golden Gate Park and try doing that in front of a U.S. Park Ranger.
You know what, Omar, I was going to bring that up because I believe that the most people that this is going to affect is people that get caught at our national parks and forestries and whatnot with cannabis. And so it's basically going to be like, hey guys, you guys can't really enforce on this anymore. What do you say on that, Omar?
And that's why the story also made the reference to DC residents are going to benefit from this. It's a federal district. And I believe there's a huge amount of land here you can get in trouble on.
What's amazing to me about the pardon declaration is that it's so broad. It applies to everybody. And this is the exact language, regardless of whether they have been charged with or prosecuted for this offense on or before the date of this proclamation. So all of us who have used cannabis illegally, we've been pardoned too. Everybody who is a party to this conversation probably got a pardon as a consequence because the language is that broad. Like we don't need to have been convicted or charged. We all got pardons. So that's remarkable.
I think one thing too to consider is the fact that this gives the ability to push harder on your state, right? And for me, as somebody that like continuously is trying to help educate people that have gone through incarceration and do have records, I think this is huge because it gives you some leverage and on a state level to say, look, this is what's happening, and you're being encouraged to do it. And anybody who's on Joe Biden or the president's nuts for anything, I feel like this might be an opportunity for you to be like, hey, look what's happening. Like, any very liberal state, I think right now is the time to push hard on this and be like, do the same thing, follow suit, be a part of the club, do the right thing.
Yeah,
but shouldn't we be pushing more on conservative states? Because most liberal states have already enacted some form of this type of
but everyone will do it like immediately is my point. We should be pushing on conservative states, but I think to an extent, if you consider Joe Biden did this, conservative states are still going to be like, fuck you, like we don't want to do anything Joe Biden says. So I think it would just be like blowing the last little piece over in a win for the liberal states that haven't done it yet, because there are some that still haven't done it.
And Jason, while you say others that have done it, they haven't exactly done this. What they've done is they've opened the door for the expungement process, and if you have a lawyer,
they've started the
you can
process.
do all this
That's what I'm
dance.
saying.
But they can do it quicker, faster,
they haven't
better.
done mass pardoning of everyone.
Bigger,
Governors
faster,
could
better,
do that
stronger.
if they wanted to. And I think that's absolutely something that the states could be pushing for. You can also push to get the HOPE Act through in Congress, which will also probably be a part of Safe Plus. And the HOPE Act is also addressing expungements on the state level and pushing states to come up with the programs that they need to do those sort of things. I think this is an opportunity. While I will take the pandering and the bullshit from the Biden administration as any opportunity to get in there and educate, this is a time to also educate them on rescheduling versus descheduling. I guarantee you they are not understanding what this would do to the industry if they just rescheduled to.
Or what if they do, though, Gretchen? What if they do? And Joe Biden has always been a drug warrior and always against cannabis and always wanted to lock everybody up. And so why not just hand over the entire cannabis industry to his friends in the pharmaceutical space?
Because I don't think Joe is going to be that proactive in cannabis as he claims to be when he wants things expeditiously done. Nothing happens expeditiously in Washington. And since day one of the Biden administration, I have been saying that Joe is up for reviewing things. He will put together lots of panels and groups to discuss how this should be done, but he is not going to pull the trigger. He just does not have the balls. It is not in his reefer madness heart to do it.
So is he put together a blue ribbon commission?
I don't think.
I really
do not think you will see rescheduling before Joe Biden leaves office.
You don't think we're waiting for the deschedule move for just 2 more years?
No way. Zero chance. Zero chance that happens under the Biden administration. Zero chance.
Okay.
You think Stone? In your stoner heart of hearts,
Stone just thinks that because he's a Democrat.
They're going to deschedule in the next 2 years. Joe Biden's gonna what the hell?
I just think it'll maybe another announcement's made in 2 years before the next big election.
Get out of here, bro. Get out
of here. Close to it.
The FBI is in the process of making an arrangement with him not to run in exchange for not prosecuting his drug addict son.
Whoa.
Oh, well, come on.
The point on my head, it was just so that I could just be a real dickhead in my thoughts today.
Is that a penis or is it a unicorn horn?
It's whatever you want it to be, but I just wanted to be a real dickhead in my hopes and thoughts.
I see a unicorn.
I think, but I do not want to take away from the positivity from the announcement.
Agreed. It's a great step forward, without a doubt.
I think it's a huge step forward. It's huge positive for everybody, rhetorically, especially from Joe Biden. This is the 5th time, total, that he's even mentioned the word cannabis, and he came through swinging.
Hold on, he didn't use the word cannabis. He used the word marijuana. Just saying.
Yes,
just saying, bro. I watched it. He said he used the word marijuana. He never used the word cannabis, not once.
And I think, and I also think, with you saying that, Jason, with him saying marijuana, we should be quelling our expectations because of what Nicole said yesterday about the science behind it. Marijuana technically is not anything. They need to be saying cannabis, period. They need to be using the right words because somebody can come through with a lawsuit on the back end of this and cannabis was never legalized at all. Cannabis was never descheduled or rescheduled at all. Marijuana was, and I don't know what marijuana is.
And in New York, they spell it with an H.
Cannabis actually was because cannabis and hemp all share the same definition in the Controlled Substances Act, which is cannabis sativa L.
Right. So we need to make sure, Gretchen, just like you said, we need to make sure this is a learning moment for these legislators. And there's a hot topic right now, and we need to make sure it remains hot, and we need to keep this conversation going, period. Hold their feet to the fire.
Will this affect industry? Have you guys? What do you think about industry? Do you think this is going to affect industry immediately?
Well, it did. It did affect the stock market. I mean, the stock markets were surging yesterday. The marijuana stocks were going up, and to which I had to tell everybody, now's the time to short them.
Buy on the dip.
Yeah.
Disclaimer: we give no financial advice.
Yes, definitely. That's a disclaimer. Yes, I'm not giving financial advice. Don't listen.
Real life disclaimer. Don't listen to Jason Beck about your finances. That's the disclaimer for the show.
Can I post my Cash App QR code?
Will you vote for us? Let me send you a link.
Yeah. Yes, and we have one of my amazing friends today who works very diligently on criminal justice reform, Amy Lupova of Can Do Clemency. Amy was granted clemency by President Clinton and later granted a full pardon under President Trump, and works on these issues diligently. And I'd love to hear your opinions and thoughts in regards to all of this, Amy.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. My God. Bring me on. Hello to everyone I haven't met. I love your diet. Just got to back up on a couple of points. So there was some old and, again on Hunter Biden, but Bush Senior, the biggest voices back in the 80s, wanted to take all of our property residents. I mean, they stand that Pandora's box people like myself and others, and some for 24 cannabis only.
Amy, we're having a really hard time. Amy, we're having a really hard time hearing you. And so we're only getting like every few words. I just don't want to not be able to respect this story, but we cannot hear you at all.
Oh, well, I don't know what do I do? What do I do?
Just like you're going in and out.
Amy, are you using Chrome as your browser?
I know I'm on stuff Chrome and come back in.
Yes. Come on Chrome and then come right back in, please.
Yeah.
Same link. All right. She's going to come back and join us shortly and break this all down.
You want to give a little background on Amy? Give a little bit of Amy's background while we wait for her to come back on, Jason.
Well, yeah. Amy started the Can Do Clemency Foundation, which is a foundation that basically helps federal inmates obtain clemency and go through the whole legal process that is involved in all of those steps. I know she's helped countless individuals obtain clemency that I know, and I love her work. I've been out lobbying in DC with her on criminal justice reform, and she is a true champion in regards to that.
Love it. I want to just give a shout out to everybody who will be positively affected by this. I know that just like you said, Jason, there are no federal prisoners on simple possession for this, but how quickly do you think, Jason, that the states are going to follow suit on this?
I mean, I think it's going to depend on what the states have going on in their own jurisdictions. I mean, I think it is great a drumbeat for the president to say this, and it definitely can give some states an added push towards doing this. But I think a lot of it is going to determine on not just the governor, but the attorney generals within each state and how much they want to dedicate resources to actually getting a project like this accomplished.
I know Texas has a great attorney general.
No state is going to do this.
Texas has an excellent attorney
Zero
general.
states, Gretchen. Zero states.
I don't think any state is going to step up and do this.
I think Gavin Newsom, since he has presidential aspirations, he would try to do something like this with California and try to segue. Well, Florida's not going to do nothing like this at all.
I think California will for sure.
Dan Patrick in Texas won't touch it.
You really think Gavin Newsom's going to be like, sure, let me mass pardon because he's been such a fan of the industry so far?
I've known Gavin Newsom since he was a supervisor in San Francisco. I actually threw a fundraiser for Gavin Newsom in 2003. Medical Cannabis was the first group to come out and back Gavin Newsom for mayor of San Francisco. And so, yes, I do think Gavin Newsom would totally take this opportunity to pander to the cannabis community and do something like that. Yes, I think it's totally within the wheelhouse.
So you think Gavin Newsom's like a younger version of Joe Biden?
No.
I've met Newsom and I've talked with him before as well. And while I agree with you and his political aspirations, I don't think he's ready to step all over conservatives to take care of the cannabis industry. I don't think sure, let me do this. I don't.
I mean, he was married to Kimberly Guilfoyle.
Bro, that still blows my fucking mind. When I
You know
found
what?
that out, I like didn't even understand. I was like, the lady that was screaming at the Trump rally? Like,
Well, also
no
too,
way.
Kimberly Guilfoyle used to be a prosecutor in San Francisco under Terrence Hallinan, who
I
was
fucking
the
thought you were
district
gonna say
attorney.
prostitute, bro.
And
I thought you were
she
gonna say prostitute.
and she
That was so good.
prosecuted the dog mauling case, the famous
it-
case where a dog was the first time a murder weapon.
It has not been confirmed, but I do believe that she was partying. She and Donald Trump Jr. were partying the night before with Hunter Biden.
I'm not
All right,
even
well, we
touching
got
that.
Amy
We have
back.
Amy back.
Let's not go down this rabbit hole. We got Amy back. Amy, can we hear you now?
I hope so. Can you hear me?
Much
Way
so much
better,
better.
10 million times better, Amy.
Yeah.
Shout out to Chrome.
Yes.
Google,
Chrome
our
all the
Lord,
things.
we love
No
you.
more Safari. I've
rims,
converted
bumpers.
to Chrome full time. We'll do a little plug for Chrome. What I was going to say is that, I don't think it's cheap shots when it comes to Hunter Biden's crack cocaine addiction. Everybody suffers from addiction, but I serve time with a lot of women. They're still in there, especially women for meth. Something happened in their life, divorce, a suicide. I got, stories out the yin yang where they weren't even really sellers, but they were embedded inside of a group of people who were making meth or crack. And I guarantee you, there are probably some people who are serving time who were somewhere in the chain that sold crack cocaine to Hunter. I mean, the fact that Joe Biden can be so disassociated when he says, oh, come on, respect that our family, addiction is a horrible thing. He didn't care about all the people who are in prison right now who also suffer from addiction. He was one of the champions. George Bush Sr., his son also, George Jr., was involved in cocaine. All of these presidents that made policies back during that era had children who were out of control, it seems like. And somehow the rest of the nation paid. So here we are. Harry Anslinger didn't put people in prison for life for cannabis. And they were running campaigns that were accusing people of smoked pot of becoming axe murderers and killing their entire families. And we didn't have people serving life in prison. But I'm concerned. I noticed on Twitter, there were a few people who were really upset if any of us advocates did but, even if we said, great, thank you, Biden, this is wonderful. What about the people who are in prison? Lance Glore is in the hospital with long COVID. He's in there for medical marijuana. We all know about Luke Scarmazzo. Pete Marino is serving life. He pled guilty and is a first offender, has served 24 years. And all of these people are still going through lockdowns through a historic pandemic. I've heard people say that Joe Biden he has so much empathy. Where is the empathy for these prisoners who are suffering? People may say that Biden didn't promise to release the pot prisoners, but Kamala did. She even put it in her book. I have it right here, where she said that something else that needs to be done. That is past time for us to get done is dismantling the failed war on drugs. That says it all. Starting with legalizing marijuana. Not moving the schedule, legalizing it. And
yes, we need to deschedule. We need to deschedule it, Amy.
Well,
Deschedule
yeah,
or
you guys are the experts in that field.
Yes.
But I also worry about moving from one schedule to another and turning up the entire thing over to Big Pharma.
That's exactly what would happen. That's exactly what would happen if we don't deschedule. If we reschedule to any of those numbers, that's exactly what's going to happen.
Amy, given Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's sketchy past dealing with the cannabis industry and dealing with people who have fallen victim to the war on drugs, do you think that they are the right people to take us into the future and actually turn a page on that, or do you think they're going to just continue to pander to voters rhetorically?
Well, they're career politicians. I mean, a lot of people like to tout the fact that Joe Biden has all this experience. We've heard that about everybody who's spent an entire career up in DC. But what I've noticed is the more experience you have is possibly the more corrupt you become, because there are these backroom deals. They don't want to step on toes. Biden is back to the policy where OPA All the petitions go through. We've sent many cannabis
OPA.
petitions to Office of the Pardon Attorney, excuse me. And for the first time, Liz Oyer, she is meeting with us advocates. So that's never happened before. However, she says over and over and over again, once these cases leave my office, they go to DOJ, and then I have no more control, which means that Biden has gone back to the policy that many of us in clemency have complained about, because guess who has the loudest voice over at DOJ as to whether your case goes over to the White House? The prosecutors. So if you didn't cooperate, or if they still have an axe to grind, that you took them to trial, and that's most of the people that we help, because those are the ones who end up with 20 to life for the mandatory, sentences. It's a conflict of interest. So I don't think Biden wants to step on DOJ's toes. All of them kind of have had a career and a little bit of nepotism or whatever up in that area. And so I worry about the fact that they say things on the campaign trail, but when they get in office, somehow, why is it cannabis always goes to the back burner? Everything is leapfrogged over cannabis over and over and over again when it comes to releasing the pot prisoners or making strides. But come on the state level, we're miles ahead of the feds. People still can't put their money in a bank, for God's sakes.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's right. Pass safe banking. Amy.
Plus.
Amy, I really want to thank you so much for taking the time to come and join us today and help us unpack this, and want to give you a big round of applause. And
thank you so much.
Yes, for having me.
We so appreciate and love the work that you do. And please, everyone, go and check out candoclemency.com. Am I correct on that, Amy?
Yes.
Yep. Candoclemency.com, and learn how you can help in the fight to help.
We're creating a new website that'll launch soon. And thank you, Jason, for letting me just get my 2 cents in. But we're happy about the announcement. But a lot of us are going to still be screaming and hollering about what about the prisoners? Come on,
Amy.
Exactly right.
When it's you, it's a whole damn dollar.
So, Amy, could we call this the first act to the first step?
If you want to.
All right.
Just remembering, everyone, that not all that glitters is golden. This is a perfect example of that.
Oh yes, those
will be in
all.
The pudding. Let's see what happens next.
Exactly.
Thank you, guys.
Time will tell. But thank you so much, Amy. So very much. Welcome to Los Ashes, the headiest city in America. Los Ashes is a 10-pound smokable city curated and created by the world-renowned roller Weavers. In the past, Weavers has amazed cannabis lovers with his roll jobs, such as a smokable 5-pound rocket launcher and a 10-pound Darth Vader. But now Weavers is rolling an entire city. Have your business featured in Los Ashes with a ton of different sponsorship opportunities available. Contact Weavers at smokablecity.com for full sponsorship information.
The thoughts and opinions and general shade thrown in the High at 9 News are those of the individual speakers, not those of any other speaker or its followers. The statements made do not constitute legal or accounting advice, and our speakers make no representation regarding the legal status of any substance in any country, area, territory, or its authorities. The views expressed in this room do not establish fiduciary relationships. Our sponsors do not imply, constitute any endorsement by us, the expression of any opinion whatsoever of any speaker or anyone on stage. If you're an easily offended person, this show is probably not for you. Also, smoke more weed.
Flying into LAX and you want to taste some of the best weed in the world? Then stop by LAXCC, the closest dispensary to LAX. Located at 8332 Lincoln Boulevard and open from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. 7 days a week. Always make LAXCC your first stop when you touch down in LA and score like a winner. And don't forget to tell them I sent you and mention you like to get high at 9 for 10% off your full order.
In an industry full of negativity, littered with folks on both sides of the aisle aiming lower and lower, this dope dad from the great purple state of Texas decided he'd be hitting the high road, leaving troubled past of rooftop Delta 8 dabs behind. A wise man once said spaceships don't come equipped with rear view mirrors, so it's all good. He's the host and co-creator of a new show with the same damn name, Hitting the High Road, and I'm sad I didn't get to hang with him when he was in LA, but you know what? He's back with us today. Stone Slade, what you got for us, man?
Thank you, Rico, my man. I always love your intros. Today, what do I have? I have a device that can detect THC, could work as an early prototype for a breathalyzer type tool to test for cannabis consumption, according to a recent study. Researchers at the University of California and UCLA are testing a cannabinoid fuel cell that they say provides a key foundation for one day developing a cannabis breathalyzer similar to the ones that exist today to test for alcohol in a person's breath. The laboratory device described in a paper published September 12th on the journal Organic Letters is able to detect THC and measure the psychoactive components concentration in a solution. This type of technology could provide a more accurate gauge of how much THC is present in a person's system compared to existing methods, the researcher said. As most of us know, testing with saliva, blood, and urine can return skewed results because THC can remain in bodily fluids for several weeks after a person has smoked. Researchers say, as such, there exists a need for a fair forensic tool capable of detecting THC in the short window of impairment. The scientists wrote in the study, this is particularly true in states and countries where marijuana has been decriminalized or legalized, given that the traditional testing could lead to fines, prosecution, and imprisonment, or loss of employment, even if the individual is not impaired at the time of testing. Cannabis has long been associated with cognitive and motor impairment, and some countries, such as Canada, have instituted THC cutoffs for drivers based on the psychoactive compounds concentration levels in the blood. The UCLA built this device, works similar to common used alcohol breathalyzers. Samples in solution undergo oxidation, a process that strips a molecule of hydrogen from the THC and generates an electric current that can be measured. The strength of the current corresponds to how much THC is present in the sample. The stronger the electric current, the higher the concentration of THC molecules. Oh my God, I'm fumbling, y'all. The electrochemical oxidation process was first detailed by the researchers in a study published on April 2020 in that same journal. Now, scientists are now trying to miniaturize this technology so it's something that's easy to use by officers. The breathalyzers could also be connected to vehicles the same way they are for breathalyzers for people that have too many DWIs, hoping to cut down on the impaired driving by preventing the car from starting if the THC is at a certain level. Personally, I think this is a huge waste of time and a whole lot of waste of research money. And all of my years of consuming cannabis and driving, and this may not be a popular opinion, but I've never felt so intoxicated that I couldn't function safely behind the wheel after smoking some reefer. I mean, we've reported many studies here that actually show that cannabis helps some people's driving. It helps people stay more focused. I think that, I've taken edibles before, and I've eaten way too many edibles, and it made the world spin so fast that there was no way I could even think about driving. And so my big question here would be, will this breathalyzer work to detect THC that was eaten, or are we just picking on the pot smokers as a meaningless safety blanket for reefer madness heads? I'm Stone Slade, reporting for this.
Thank you so much for covering this, Stone. I truly wonder, and I love for anyone, and Dr. Talleyrand, I really want to hear your thoughts on this, but I just wonder, where was the drug driving in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, prior to legalization? Because to me, I've never heard of it as a thing until legalization, which I think is total bullshit.
I agree, Jason. This is just a company trying to make money. You have to correlate the level of THC with the bad driving, and they haven't gotten there yet. They're just measuring THC. So if it doesn't correlate with bad driving, it's useless. So yeah, it's just a company trying to make money.
Well, and it did sound like it was going to be something that you said it was it's like a mixture that they mix it with a liquid to test it, like your saliva. What was
No, they take your breath, they run an electric current to it. And in your breath, if there's THC molecules, the electrical current changes the phenol ring, which is the ring.
So then your breath wouldn't.
Hold on,
but your breath wouldn't have an edible, like Stone is saying at the end.
Exactly.
Right. Exactly. You'd have to breathe it out.
And,
but it's in your
and yesterday, I got like uncomfortably high on edibles, but I've never been uncomfortably high on smoking.
Exactly.
Dr. Talleyrand, so are you basically saying that the cops, or the cops ultimately, if they were to use this device, would basically be tasing your breath?
No, they don't shock you.
Don't tase me, bro.
Well, okay, they're tasing
He's tasing your taste buds.
I mean, while we may not like the idea of this technology, this is the exact kind of thing that Washington's going to be looking for data. to better understand how we should be legalizing and what regulations should be put in place.
Yeah, but
We
Gretchen,
just
don't
start
you
doing it by
think
just-
these guys are barking up the wrong tree with this? Because what they're trying to do is they're trying to fit a round hole in a square peg, and it's just not working because in order to understand how cannabis works, it's not the same as alcohol. So trying to get a breathalyzer sample, you need to like figure out some other method of testing besides a breathalyzer because
Jason's
it
trying to
just
put a
doesn't
hole
work
in
that
a
way.
peg.
Yeah. I felt more fucked up on too much ginseng driving my car than I have on.
Yeah, dude,
weed.
fucking Red Bulls.
uh,
I've taken some Red Bulls and I'm like, this is not safe. I
Hey,
should not have.
Well, while the
Stone.
technology may not be where we want it to be yet, it is undeniable that in numerous pieces of legislation in Washington, they have
We
been
need something.
requesting this type of technology to figure it out.
Stone, do you know?
But
do you
it
know-
needs-
has to
I
happen.
understand they're requesting it, but my point is that I think these companies, if they wanted to create something like this, they need to look down a different path other than a breathalyzer
They need to
sample.
be looking at blood tests, frankly. They need to
Yeah.
be talking to the guys at One Touch for diabetes and see how they can change that shit around to
You know what would probably be
Yeah.
actually even better to make sure that they can get the edibles, because edibles do fuck you up more than anything, is they probably should just take you and get a stool sample, and then by that time, that's it.
Oh shit all over them. Hey, Stone. Is this? Do you know if this is the same device produced by Hound Technologies? I know that they had like some
This is not
breathalyzer.
Hound.
I don't believe
Hound.
so.
This is not Hound.
No.
And this is not the first group that we've seen trying to put something together. I mean, it's going to continue. So
Exactly. The last group failed. Their name was Hound. So take a page out of that. This group is going to fail too, because it's not how you do it, dumb fucks.
well, I'd like to hear from Dr. Talleyrand. What do you think would be the best way to monitor someone who may have just consumed an edible, just smoked? How do you instantaneously test for that? Is that possible?
Yeah.
It may not be possible. The breath is a decent way to do it, or the saliva is a decent way to do it. It's just like you said, you got to collect the data, and the politicians are going to want to collect the data to see if there's correlation. What we know as cannabis users is that there probably won't be good correlation, and so with that, the science won't make it useful. So this company is just hopeful in the end. I don't know what Canada's doing because I don't know how they determine
Guess what?
a certain level is poor correlation.
They're not doing anything in Canada about this, and they have it federally legalized. How
Oh, I
about
thought
that?
Yeah.
Exactly.
How about that?
Thank you so much for that, Dr. Talleyrand and Stone. Thank you for that as well. But coming up next, he's the founder of a cannabis law firm with offices in California, New York. Where did you go? You just totally disappeared.
Who's that?
I'm so sorry.
Well,
With offices with New York, director of National Cannabis Industry Association and legal publisher and author whose 2022 California cannabis laws and regulations was just released. He's also a ganjier, sommelier, and a purple belt in high style Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and will kick your ass on the streets as well as in court. Coming up next, it is none other than the lawyer himself, Omar Figueroa.
Thank you, Jason. Happy Friday, everyone. My story is from MJ Biz Daily. The headline is Costa Rican President Follows Through on Pledge with Cannabis Draft Law. Costa Rica's president followed through with a promise he made in August to bring recreational cannabis legislation to the Central American country's legislative assembly. President Rodrigo Chavez unveiled a draft law Wednesday that, if enacted, would lay the legal foundation for production and sale of adult-use cannabis, the Associated Press reported. Chavez said that the consequences of marijuana prohibition is that criminal groups, gangs, and drug traffickers make money at the expense of the integrity of consumers. So far, only Uruguay and Canada have recreational cannabis laws and regulations on the books, facilitating adult-use marijuana industries. A number of other countries are in the process of legalizing marijuana, including Mexico and Germany. Earlier this year, Costa Rica approved a law to allow medical marijuana sales and cultivation. Chavez previously said his administration was preparing the regulations for medical marijuana and the cultivation of hemp for industrial purposes. It's still unknown whether those regulations will foster a thriving local industry. In search of more details, I found the Associated Press article referenced by MJ Biz Daily, which I've translated from Spanish. President Chavez pointed out that the use of cannabis for recreational purposes is a reality that cannot be hidden. It's no secret that to anyone that marijuana is consumed in Costa Rica more and more openly in streets and parks. It is a reality, commented the Costa Rican president during the usual press conference. Chavez said that in Costa Rica, there has never been any regulation beyond the criminal prohibition on the sale and distribution of marijuana. What has been the consequence of the state being outside of that regulatory activity, he asked? That criminal groups, gangs, and drug traffickers have taken advantage. They make the money, he replied. The president asked the Legislative Assembly to carry out a technical analysis of the issue and assess the experience of other countries where legalization has had good results. Chavez admitted that he personally does not agree with the use of marijuana by adults or young people, but he believes that it is convenient to regulate the activity so that the country can take advantage of it. Let them pay taxes and generate formal employment. It is very clear that this is not an easy issue. Many people of good faith have doubts, he said. I applaud Costa Rican President Chavez for being open-minded about cannabis. There's tremendous potential for cannabis tourism, particularly cannabis ecotourism, to positively impact the Costa Rican economy and the lives of travelers. Can you imagine what Costa Rica will be like when it starts competing with Thailand for upscale cannabis-loving travelers? I can't wait to compare and contrast. Returning to Costa Rica, ojalá veremos matas de marihuana por todo el país y ticos, ticas y turistas pegándole al puro así como toman café, pura vida. Hopefully, we'll see plants growing all over the country and Costa Ricans and visitors alike hitting the joint with the same enthusiasm that they drink the local coffee. The headline is Costa Rican President Follows Through on Pledge with Cannabis Draft Law. This is Omar Figueroa, lawyer, publisher, and Ganjier instructor, reporting from Sonoma County, the traditional territory of the Pomo, Miwok, and Wapo nations who are with us to this day for High at 9, high noon Eastern.
This is huge,
Oh,
man. Thank you
yeah.
so much for covering this, Omar. And Costa Rica, here we come, man. Here we come.
Who's going to get the name Pura Vida first?
I mean,
Is Vita
I
ever
bet it's
really
already,
pura?
I'm just saying. Someone's definitely.
yeah.
Yeah, someone.
No,
Someone
no,
probably
it's
got
not.
that name
It's not. I had to think about what it meant for a second.
Yeah.
Life is not pure.
That's awesome. I gotta say that's the
yeah.
only part of Costa Rica I didn't love was
Yeah.
the quality of the bud I got and where I had to go to get it. So
And
Yeah,
to all,
securing the bag in Costa Rica was a little bit less ideal than a lot of my journeys in life. I play a game when I travel, which is called How Long Does It Take to Score a Sack? And I have just different timelines. I will say, spot on, exactly as I expected. I got weed from Jamaica from my taxi driver from the airport. So literally shortest time ever, Jamaica for the win. I kind of expected it, but Costa Rica took me almost 2 days to find weed. And I was fucking heated because I couldn't eat on my second day. I was hungry and I knew I was hungry, but I kept trying to eat. And I was like, I need my weed. What's happening? And then I found weed and it was hard to smoke. And I had to go find something to make a shitty pipe out of because I couldn't roll it.
for all of our from all of our Black audience members listening and viewing us, like Costa Rica, Panama, and Colombia are great places to look at for cannabis legislation moving forward. And then also they're very, very, very friendly to people of color traveling and looking to become expats. Jason?
I encourage everyone to play the game of how long does it take to score a sack, and that is how you should rate how good's the food and how long does it take to score a sack on whether or not you come back to said holiday vacation.
That's Mexico. Awesome. What about Mexico? How'd you do in Mexico?
Bro, people that picked me up had weed in Mexico. I've never had to look for weed in Mexico. Every time I go to Mexico, like I have friends out there that live there, and so there is always weed. I grew up in San Diego, so there just is always weed in Mexico. I've never looked.
I've had some of the worst like quality fucking weed in Mexico, but it's
Well,
crazy.
yeah, I never said it was good weed. That's true.
Right.
You're 100. I get some fucking, and
Damn.
the further south you get, usually the less
Yeah.
quality for me.
But back in the day when I was pitching sacks myself, like we got the best shit from Mexico, but when I went down there, like it's always the worst.
Mexico's like California in reverse. Sorry,
Ooh.
NorCal.
Ooh, I like that.
Shots fired. Pew,
Oh
pew.
boy. Oh boy.
Are we gonna keep it rolling here?
Yeah, I think
Yes.
so. Thank you so
Okay.
much, Omar.
Yeah, thank you for that story, Omar.
Yes, thank you, Omar.
Up next and bringing us home is a real industry OG with a proven track record, representing the people with utmost compassion. He's the founder of Medican and co-founder of CESC, a nonprofit cannabis research organization, and he's seriously doing some great work out there, educating the people and providing data-backed research everyone should be checking out. Dr. Jean Talleyrand, what you got for us today, my man? We're ready for our daily dose.
Thanks, Rico. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. My story today was published in the Red-Headed Black Belt. The headline is Humboldt County Cannabis Abatement Program Unconstitutional, says the Institute for Justice, which today filed a federal class action lawsuit. This is by investigative journalist Nicole Norris. And Ms. Norris is joining us this morning, but let me give you some background. As she gets on stage. The Institute of Justice, a nationally acclaimed nonprofit human rights law firm, filed a class action lawsuit yesterday against Humboldt County Board of Supervisors and the Humboldt County Building and Planning Department on behalf of 1,219 residents. Humboldt County, California is traditionally known for cannabis cultivation. In the 1960s and 70s. People migrated to the county's redwood forests to live off the land in rural isolation. They also began to grow the best cannabis in the world. After passage of California's Prop 64, the Control, Regulate, and Tax Act, residents began receiving cannabis abatement notices and fines ranging from $10,000 to $80,000 per day. The lawsuit claims that the county's cannabis abatement program is designed to squeeze every dollar it can from innocent people. The county uses satellite photos to identify unpermitted greenhouses, barns, or sheds and issue abatement notices. No one comes to check if there's actually cannabis growing in these structures. So Nicole, are you on?
Yes, we do have Nicole with us. There
Yes,
she
I sure
is.
am, Dr. Talleyrand. Thank you so much for having me, everybody. It's such an honor to be here. I'm on the side of the road. I just dropped my son off. Please forgive the noise of the cars.
No worries. So Nicole, can you tell us about this lawsuit? Is there probable cause?
No, absolutely not. Our local judge even said that a greenhouse does not equal cannabis. But unfortunately, that's what's been happening. Our satellite abatement program, it's about a $300 a year contract that the county code enforcement unit has with, I forget the name of the company, but it's a satellite company, and they do an overview of our rural areas, primarily the high cannabis concentration areas, and they essentially give out these notices to everybody who lives there. A lot of folks here actually value growing their own food, so a lot of people have been caught up in this nightmare. And it's not, even if you're innocent, it's not cheap or easy to get out of the nightmare. Our local nuns at the monastery, for example, got an abatement. I'm sure theirs was more affordable, but there are people like that, homesteaders, families that have had to pay thousands of dollars to prove their innocence. And there is no probable cause whatsoever when looking at a greenhouse from the sky via satellite now.
Wow, so people have been growing cannabis in Humboldt for a long time. Why are the officials, what happened? Why are they against?
Well, this actually touches on a lot of the issues you guys were talking about earlier. Amy, this is for you. I want to just second everything that the other folks said, and I forgot your names. I'm so sorry. But I've noticed that legalization has been used as a tool to recriminalize cannabis and an excuse for civil enforcement agencies to hammer harder on our legacy cultivators with techniques that far exceed those during the war on drugs. It's gotten worse since legalization as far as the flyovers. Was it The Economist? No, the DCC or something. Someone put out a report recently saying that the seizures, you know which report that was, Dr. Talleyrand. I think you shared that with me. But all of this is on the rise. The bus, the detentions, all of these promises we were given with legalization. Not to mention, in my opinion, the most important part, well, it's hard to pick one, but one of the most important parts of this issue is equity for our legacy cultivators and providing the highest quality medicine for our patients. Now, legalization has not done either of those. It's actually gone the opposite direction. And so I think scheduling this might be a good move. I've reached out to Bernie Sanders on this, and he actually quoted me when he was running for president. Maybe he got in the ear of Biden and hopefully, geared them towards decriminalization versus legalization, because legalization is the corporatization of cannabis. John Boehner, isn't he one of the ex-House Speaker, right? Isn't he one of the primary beneficiaries of this industry?
He is, but he's a protectionist and wants to hamper sales by states and not allow for interstate trade, therefore keeping prices artificially high in these states with low access points.
Oh, bless it. I didn't hear that.
We read a story earlier from LA Times, and maybe this is who you were talking about, Nicole. LA Times investigative reporter Paige St. John writes that illegal cannabis grows violence, worker exploitation, and deaths in Northern California. What would be your response to her claims?
Oh, it's absolutely 100% accurate. That wasn't the article I was thinking of, but that's another dynamic. The article I was thinking of is linked into my work on the redheaded black belts. Actually, Dr. Talleyrand was featured in that article. And I think it was a Department of Cannabis Control report or some federal DEA thing. I don't remember, but bus detentions and seizures of cannabis is on the rise since legalization. And what you're speaking about, the violence, yes, I have noticed that. I live in Southern Humboldt, in the heart of cannabis country, and it's scary. Everyone is economically deprived right now, and it almost seems systematic with legalization. Like the demonization of this cannabis plant has led to, again, the recriminalization of it. Even the matter that you were speaking about with driving under the quote unquote influence, I'm sorry, that's ludicrous. Like, how far can they go? You wonder, right? But yeah, so an example of the violence that's exacerbated in Humboldt County right now, the best example would be the Rolling Meadow Ranch 8.5 acre cannabis project. That's the biggest one in the county. The District 1 supervisor's son was running it for a while, and that's why it got approved in a lot of people's opinions. There was lawsuits around it. California Department of Fish and Wildlife were totally against it, but they still pushed this project through, harming 20-something endangered species and the ecosystems. And I mean, these people have workers that are carrying AR-40. I don't know anything about guns.
AK-47s.
AK-4. Is that the one that's really illegal or something?
They're not illegal.
Okay, the one that's illegal, AR-15s.
AR-15s.
Is that the one that's illegal? Yeah, okay. So that's the one that they're carrying around on a ferry in my friend's
They're actually legal in Stone State. You can have an AR-15 in Texas.
Oh, cool.
They're legal everywhere. You just can't get caught with them.
Well,
I mean, the
disclaimer.
Ferry boat. The workers, so they're on a ferry boat in this town called McCann. It's population like 20, and the workers there's 25 in total, and they're all carrying AR-15s to cross a river to get to this little community called McCann. It's very scary for people. My neighbor or my friend lives next door to that project, and she said it's never felt more unsafe.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you so much, Nicole.
Thank you, hon.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Jean, for that story.
I had a quick question for Nicole, actually.
Oh, yeah, let's ask.
Yes. Nicole, I'm wondering, with all of these farms that have been cited, did they ever cite a Japanese maple farm?
Yes.
They did.
Yes.
Did they really?
Oh, yeah.
Are you serious?
I worked at a cannabis law office with
Yes!
Eugene Jensen, right? We had somebody with olives and maple trees. Yes. And they were cited
That
by the
makes
water
my day.
department specifically.
How much did that cost them in legal fees to prove that they were actually growing legal plants?
The water board was so scary. They were just as scary as the county, but I think they threatened, hundreds of thousands of dollars in fines for one of the stories. You can check out my stories on the Redheaded Black Belt. The confusion leads to criminalization. That one with Dr. Talleyrand explains more about that.
I will
and
totally
what
say
it costs people.
The water board and the Department of Ag is going to, Fish and Wildlife and all that is going to be a lot bigger concern for a lot of people than the DCC is going to be. And I think a lot of people think that the DCC is who's going to come for their fucking lunch, but no, bro. It like the water issues, the birds, the bees, like all the shit, like they are going to come for you. Like don't use the wrong anything. Like know your pesticide regulations, understand water rights. Like this is a big fucking deal because if you're not doing this right, they will use it to just push you out for some, mistake, you weren't paying attention to the fucking regulations. And this is going to be a big one. The Department of Ag, Fish and Wildlife, man, they're real. They're not fucking around. They're not.
And they have guns like the IRS and they will shoot to kill.
They will. Fuck. Well, thank you so much. We've had some really great guests. Gretchen, thank you for bringing us some breaking news and also breaking many liberal hearts this morning, as I'm sure you love to do. And Jason loves to see it. And thank you everyone else for keeping it real this morning, because this is important information that we definitely want to make sure that nobody is getting the wool pulled over their eyes by politicians on some bullshit. So thank you guys, everyone, for getting high at 9 with us today and every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific and high noon on the East Coast. Big shout out to our audience and supporters and to the haters for still talking about us. Huge thank you to True Classic, Weavers, and LAXCC for helping us keep the lights on. Thank you to the correspondents for being amazing, and to Cannabis for giving us a reason to do this, be a little bit funnier. Thank you to 3 is 4 for helping us create a space in this cannabis miniverse, and to all of you for tuning in and getting high at 9 with us.
And
Have a
thank
good
you to
weekend,
President
everyone.
Biden for.
You are tuned in to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebs and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and enthogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your hosts, Jason Beck, Rico Lamitte, and Nicole West, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time. Thank you for getting high at 9 with us.